Isn't it all about relationships, though? How are relationships fundamentally different in the age of the internet than they would be in prior eras? Because it strikes me that a lot of the people who are developing those followings are developing that authority, that voice in the new era. They're just extending relationships out into a new medium, as opposed to necessarily engaging in an entirely new skill altogether.
Yeah, I mean, what's the quality of the relationships? I think is really interesting. So, we do have, I have a lot of friends, it turns out, on Facebook.
You're a popular guy.
I'm a super popular guy. But I don't really know them, aside from maybe 100 of them. So what is the quality? I think it brings into question the quality of our relationships, and how we wield influence is one thing, but how do we actually affect something beautiful in our relationships, especially given what we're talking about is religion and spirituality. And so, what is the quality of the way we interact with people whom we know and whom we don't know online? One of the things I like to tell young people is be the best person you can be online. I know it's hard, but it's unusual to find someone who's beautiful and sweet and kind online. Most of us are a little caustic and edgy, but if you can, it's how do we want to relate to people in this new era of being able to relate to people we know and people who we only know through this medium, which is very fragile, I would say.
And it's not just, what's interesting is that it's not just how is the internet changing religion, but how can religion and religious values inform the way we act online and use all sorts of different technologies. There's the wonderful line that said, before you say something, is it necessary, is it true, is it kind? Mm-hmm. And those are very religious values, in however you manifest those. And that can change the way the online discussion happens as well.
Right. And we can, the internet has transformed kind of who we view as our community. So we can all of a sudden be following a situation like a Ferguson and say okay, I'm not really there. This is not my immediate community, but actually this is something that I feel engaged with. How can I engage with it, again, productively? But also saying this isn't a social justice situation that I feel invested in. And I think that the other piece of the relationship puzzle is that when I was growing up in Madison, Wisconsin, in the 60s and 70s, there was no way I could meet a Muslim or interact with a Muslim or even a Hindu or a Buddhist. That was, maybe a little bit, but because Madison had some cosmopolitan element. But what the internet does is it allows us to be the potential for communication with people who are very different from us, who have a very different worldview than us. How we engage those people, though, on the internet is really important. How are religious leaders offering opportunities for that engagement? But the possibility for interfaith engagement is much better than it was when I was growing up. It's much more, even if it's on the internet, it's much more in some ways 3D. Than for me growing up, I would have, if I had even realized that I wanted to learn about Islam, I would have had to gone to the library, some librarian.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, but now you really can follow religious leaders who are Muslim and learn, and be oh, that's a quote that you find interesting. So there's all sorts of ways that the internet is allowing us to be engaged, but again, I think we all have to take responsibility for the quality of our engagements, and it's very hard. I find myself getting, worked up sometimes online, and I have to try to remember the humanity that's behind the icon.